A really cool track that I mixed and mastered is a cover of Midnight Sky by Izzy and an all-star female band, Claire Janu at the guitar, Alice Lane at the bass, and phenom Brooke Colucci at the drum. He's doing really well, they have big numbers, and I want to share with you guys this trick that I used for Izzy's voice. She has a really great voice, so powerful, so rock and roll, so what I wanted to do in this mix was enhance this power that she has. Let's listen to the final mix for a second. So there's a lot going on in this mix, amazing musicians and a lot of vocals, harmonies, background vocals, but I'll focus just on the lead and on one of the many effects that I used to create this powerful feeling. And I think it's going to be interesting and eye-opening because you can't really pick the effects that I use in the mix, but when you'll hear them in solo, it will be eye-opening. So this is the lead vocal with only the ambient effect and not this dist vox track, which is what we are seeing today. Keep in mind that I had several pieces of hardware in here, a distressor in insert for the vocal that I don't have right now, so I used the arouser instead. But this is the lead vocal.
She is hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced, you know.
So immediately you hear, aside all the delays and reverbs that I have on it, there is distortion already, but that saturation is just my static saturation that is on her vocal the entire time, okay? While this dist vox track, which is the effect that we're gonna see in a minute, is automated only on choruses, and I ride the level of it, as you can see here, in various sections. And this is gonna be a good lesson on masking, something that everybody asks me about, but it's so hard to explain. This is a good example. So for the static saturation / distortion on our vocals, there are 3 main processors, not counting the distressor that I had here, which was on stun settings, basically. I'm gonna bypass all the saturation so you can hear the clean vocal. The first stage is the channel limiter channel from console 1. I used the drive, as you can see here, 6.6 character, a little brighter. This is how it sounds without, and without the other 2 saturators.
She is hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced, you know.
I have an arouser plugin, which still adds a little bit of character. Of course, the hardware distressor was adding more, but this is with the first stage of saturation.
She is hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced, you know.
And we add a little bit of grit already, but with the electric guitar and the drum and the big bass, it wasn't enough, not even close. So you can see here the arouser that I used in place of the distressor just for the video. And then I have this really cool plugin from IK Multimedia. It's one of their tape emulation, and I driven this one really hard. This is how it sounds with this one on.
She is hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced, you know.
You hear how it breaks so nicely. The third one, still for the static saturation, is the ozone exciter. This is a multi-band saturator. You saw me using this often. And I have only the mid band here and the top band here engaged, respectively with warm and retro. And this is how it sounds with it.
She is hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced, you know.
Okay, yeah, that sizzle at the top that helps the vocal poke through the mix, okay, through the wall of guitars. Of course, after that, I use a de-esser just to tame that top end. And this was all for the static distortion, okay? But now here's the interesting thing. There's this dist box track here. And let me show you the volume automation. You see here, I did ride the fader with my controller throughout the song for the return of this effect. And this is how it sounds with it.
See his hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced. You know, hey, that I was born to run. I don't belong to anyone. You know, I don't like to be loved by.
And here again, I turn the volume up in these passages.
Loved by, loved by, loved by, loved by, loved by.
You can hear how much more powerful, and most important, I want you to pay attention to this specific bit here when she goes really high, which is usually one of those parts, especially with female vocals, in which compression alone will not cut it because it's either too much and it's pinning that scream down too much, or it's too little on the rest of the song. So the combination of saturation and compression, especially on vocals, is vital. In this case, I really, really like the effect, and I spent a lot of time finding the right one. And I really like the final result in this case because I let the compressor pinning down that scream, but I turn up the volume of the distorted track. So you still hear it very powerful and more distorted in a song, but it doesn't poke out of the mix as stuff like that usually does. So let me play this for you again.
See his hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced. You know.
You hear how cool that is? And because it's a stereo effect, you have two factors. The mono signal, the lead vocals, get pinned down by the compressor, the distressor in this case, while the distorted vocal that is stereo, it's left a full volume. So you have this kind of lower in the mid and wider and bigger on the side that makes this part particularly cool, I think. Let me show you what I did. Of course, I sent these lead vocals to this Vox channel. I have the SSL channel here not doing anything. Actually, a de-esser going in before the actual saturation.
See his hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced. You know.
And you see this de-esser? I'm not taking prisoners. I'm smashing this parallel distorted vocal with the de-esser. This de-esser will be too much for anything else. But I'm hitting a guitar amp simulator. In this case is Amplitude. This is one of the many high gain head simulation that they have. And I tried many. As you can see, I tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different variations, and I was changing the preset that I made to hear which one was fitting the mix correctly with everything in it. This is pretty simple. I have a couple of effects before, which gives me that stereo effect, the analog flanger, an overdrive, and then the cab. And I don't think there's anything in the rack. No, actually there is. There's this tube compressor doing something. The delay is turned off. Let me see if I can solo you this distorted track. Same here. Okay, so it's a lot of distortion, of course. It's tucked in pretty low, but it adds so much power and grit and width too. And now that you know that is there, if you listen to the final product, I'll put the link down below. These guys are doing really well right now. You can probably pick it in the mix now that you know that is there. After the Amplitude, I just have a simple delay with different settings left and right to make it stereo. To make it stereo, without it, it would sound like this. With it. Okay, and after that, just a simple EQ to remove all the low end that I don't need. So all of these together sound like this. I will mute and unmute a distorted vocal.
See his hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced. You know.
Without it.
See his hands on my waist, thought you'd never be replaced. You know.
Is a lot less interesting.
Hey, that I was born to run, I don't belong to anyone. You know, I don't like to be loved by.
In the contest, All right, so this is pretty much it. It's a simple trick, but I think, like I said at the beginning, it will probably be an eye-opening on how much distortion sometimes there is in single tracks and groups that you can't really pick up in the mix, but they help tremendously with the final result. And this song has a ton of vocals, a ton of background vocals and ad-libs and double tracks and all that, and a crazy amount of effects, all custom. This is a 100+ tracks mix, has a hip-hop part in the verses, and everything else is like rock and roll. If you want to see something else from this mix, listen to the final product. You want me to break down bits and pieces, something in particular, let me know in the comment down below. I will probably make this the new members only course. So if you like this video and you want to see more, click the join button down here, become a member, see all the perks. You get mixed consultations with me. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.
Hands on my neck, hands grip my throat.